All right, here we are in part 3 of this scene, or part 3 at least of the screencast. I apologize for the last interruption. It was a toddler-inspired interruption. This last one is I can't be. This last line is I can't be kind. In our translation, I'm going to actually put in here though one that I've seen more often in other translations, which is I can't be good. Okay. And I'd like us to think about these two lines. This will be something we come back to in the discussion section, guys. But notice what he's saying here. First of all, we can ask ourselves, who is the they that won't let him, right? He's basically arguing that he's not permitted to do something. So who's not permitting him? Is it the stone walls? Is it the people who enforce the stone walls? What is that? What else won't they let him, right? I think there's a reason why Dostoevsky leaves as an ellipses here. One possible reason, of course, is the guy's crying and he's basically choking on his tears. The other possible reason is that Dostoevsky wants to leave it ambiguous for us, right? What won't they let him do? They won't let him be free. They won't let me be myself. They won't let me be what? And the second one, look at that. When he says, I can't be kind, or as I said a moment ago, I can't be good. Why does he say that? Is this part of the explanation for why he has spite and why that's his primary motivation is to be spiteful? And we've talked about why he was spiteful, right? He was spiteful because he wanted to reject egoism. He didn't want to do what everyone told him would make him happy. He wanted to be his own person. So the other reason I think it's really important to focus on these lines, guys, is because they're the lines spoken by our underground man, and they might be the only sincere lines he's uttered, right? The only lines of real vulnerability and honesty that he's ever uttered. And they might also be the first ones and the last ones he ever uttered, right? It just doesn't seem like after this incident with Lisa, he ever allowed himself to engage like this with another person. So look at how we've come full circle in this scene already. We started with the underground man's vulnerability, right? Then his rant and tyranny. And now we're back to his vulnerability. He's reduced essentially to just a blithering idiot. Vulnerability. Okay? All right. Now, the last screencast we'll look at together is... actually, we could do it right now. I was just going to say that the last thing I wanted to indicate from this scene is that, of course, it doesn't end here. Chapter 9 ends here, but then it continues on to Chapter 10. And after he wakes up, he then delivers to Lisa probably the most devastating and cruel act anyone's ever done to her. And for a Russian prostitute in the mid-19th century, right, that list of devastating and cruel acts is probably pretty obscene. And Underground Man manages to make it to the top of the list, which is his final act of tyranny and power and abuse, which is giving her the 5 rubles, right? Basically, he couldn't handle, once again, look at this psychological pattern we're seeing with this guy. He simply could not handle that she came to his house and saw him vulnerable, so he has to go on this rant. And then he cries and loses it emotionally and takes sincere consolation from her, allows himself to be hugged and held, allows himself to cry on her lap, and then rather than receiving that compassion from her. As an act of compassion, he puts money in her hand for it and essentially treats her act of sincere love and compassion as an act of a prostitute, as a paid for act, right? Like, here, take your money, you let me cry on you. And of course, to her, that must be just devastating, right? I mean, here she's been responded to with her genuine love and sincerity has been met by absolute hostility, so and utter cruelty. So, okay, that brings to an end talking about this scene. I'm going to have one more short screencast about the final paragraph of the novel, and then we'll be done here. All right?